talked about tuning the orchestra. So they're tuning, right, to make sure that they're all in the same.
There you go.
I'm tuning.
You got it.
It's a good thing to tune to the universe. All right, welcome everybody to another Wednesday concert at Valley College. Thanks for being here. Thanks to the radio station who's up there recording this for us. We're very happy to have back the Kadima String Quartet. They've been here for many moons. We're happy to have them back all the time. So they are going to start with some music and then talk to you a little bit. There'll be time for some questions afterwards. And they can tell you about what they do and about the conservatory and all of it. Okay, let me get the lights in the door and then we'll start.
And together we are the Kadima String Quartet, and very happy to be here today. And as Dr. Nova was saying, we are in residence in the Kadima Conservatory of Music, and basically what this quartet does is it's enmeshed and incredibly dedicated to both playing and mentoring. So we run a tri-level orchestra program, a beginning strings program, and we have over half of our students on full or partial scholarship. We turn no one away from music who has the desire to learn and the dedication to practice and work. And we work with students of all levels. We basically work with kids between the ages of 5 and 77. And we have actually in our different orchestras, so in our junior fill, which is our first time orchestra, we have some little kids, but we also have a 75-year-old woman who really wants to play. And so there she is playing. So basically, one of our missions and one of the ways that we do things is we're highly mentored. So we have a faculty sitting within our orchestra program, which makes for a very steep learning. So we have us sitting in residence with our string students, and then we have winds faculty, brass faculty, and percussion faculty.
And
so,
other string faculty.
And other string faculty as well, that is correct. So it really makes for everyone gets tortured, no one gets left alone. So it really makes for an incredible kind of feeling within the orchestra and also a steep learning grade. So that's about us. The other part of this is what you see us doing, we do all over town. We play at many different colleges, we have community concerts. I have some flyers for you. We're playing November 2nd at Northridge Library at 12:30. Everywhere we play, it's always free. We are running on grants and awards. That's how we can afford to be here today. So basically the idea is that everyone has the right and should be able to hear a high caliber of music and to be able to train with a high caliber of musicians. So that's our shtick, and that's one of the reasons we're here. We're also here because it's going to be Halloween soon, so we brought some spooky fun music for you to hear. And how many people have not ever heard a string quartet before? Raise your hand. This is your first time hearing a string quartet. Oh, wow. Well, we'll be gentle, okay? Your first time with us. And so, what makes a string quartet? Anyone know? What instrumentation when you look up here?
Violin, cello, viola.
Right. How many violins?
2 violins, 1 cello, 1 viola.
That is awesome, and that is correct. And so Mr. Haydn and Mr. Mozart, who, by the way, wrote the first little thing you heard today, that was Eine kleine Nachtmusik, said if you put 2 fiddles, 2 violins, 1 viola, and 1 cello together, it makes an awesome noise. And they started to write quartets back and forth to each other. They're called the celebrated quartets. And that kind of started a whole slew of composers writing for 2 violins, 1 viola, 1 cello. Quickly, my instrument is bigger than Mishgar's and Brian's. My voice is lower. She's the biggest, so her voice is the lowest. Yes. So we're going to play another very lovely classical piece. Actually, it's a Baroque piece of music for you. It's by a little known guy named Antonio Vivaldi. Have you heard of him? Yeah? Okay. And so we're going to play a concerto grosso. Does anyone know what a concerto is? Anybody from Mishgar's orchestra here that would know what a concerto is? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, you ready? You're going to remember this? A concerto is a piece of music written for a featured solo instrument, trumpet, flute, viola, violin, with orchestral accompaniment. So Vivaldi wrote this concerto grosso, which does not mean disgusting concerto, it means big concerto. And we are going to play this concerto grosso featuring our 2 very fine and famous violinists, Mishgar and Brian. So this is a concerto grosso featuring our fiddle players by Vivaldi. So one of the things I want to invite you to do as we are playing, because I'm going to ask you about this, is to see what techniques we're employing to maintain our ensemble in different language. What are we doing to stay together? What things do we do to stay together? So I'm going to ask you about that. We'll play a couple more pieces for you. This next piece is by, and who is he? He is
He's the father of Armenian folk music, and this tune is called Eshmiatzin dance. And Eshmiatzin is their holiest of places in Armenia. In order for you to become a priest in Armenia, you have to spend 40 days at Eshmiatzin. And this is the Eshmiatzin dance.
how Halloweeny this is, but the name of the piece
title is very Halloween.
very Zombie by the Cranberries. Ah, good. People that know the Cranberries and Zombie. you know what, let's take the time now, because you've seen us play a few pieces. What things do you see us doing so that we maintain our ensemble? What are we doing as a quartet? Yes, in the back. I wish I could see you. What's your name?
Allison.
Allison. What are we doing?
I see you nodding your head a lot and switching positions when something picks up or slows down. And you look at others when you feel a part coming on.
That was a very good.
All those are all very good descriptions. So, we use our body movement. We're basically throwing a huge amount of energy around the quartet. And so
We're creating a hypothetical fifth person right here in the
right in
middle.
the middle. And so our body's moving, it's part of us translating that energy, translating the time. You know, our heads nodding, all of that stuff. Eye contact, super important for a lot of reasons. First of all, there's nothing, okay, now I'm gonna out myself. Nothing sexier to me than looking over and watching these two men in the exact same place in their bow. And I'm thinking, I gotta be in the exact same place in my bow too. It is very, very important when we articulate or we do things that we do it the same way and we have the same idea. So I'm looking all the time to see where she is in her bow, where they are in their bow. I'm also looking when we have material together, a rhythm together, we look at each other. We look at each other's fingers, we look at each other's eyes, we look at each other's hands. Another reason we look at each other, Mishkar, I love this, you explain this one. Why do we look at each other?
A lot of the facial expression tells us a lot of the information about how we're going to play a note, how we're going to put the bow on the string, how fast it's going to move, how much bite we're going to have, or if there's going to be any bite. Basically, I look at her face, say for example, and if there's something sort of morose, you know there's not going to be a harsh sound coming out of your instrument. So there's so much information that comes just from looking at somebody's face. So that is another reason to look.
What are some other things you think we're doing? Yeah.
Usually forwards and subir the sua voz e subir breaths to initiate the part.
Breathing, very
Yeah.
good.
All musicians breathe. Whether you play a wind instrument, or a brass instrument, or the piano, or the lowly guitar. No, I didn't say that, Anna. Everyone has to breathe. And you can hear it. When you listen to old recordings, you can actually hear people breathing on old recordings. And the breath also gives us time. It tells us how fast we are. So when we start that breath, will tell us our visit.
That's something else that carries a lot of information about articulation, about speed, about actually affect. As in, is this something heartfelt? Or, you see, you're not going to do the same depending on those two breaths. They're very, very vastly different. So you can see how that goes, right? There's a lot more nuance in there, but I gave you a couple of very different examples there.
Yes?
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain a little bit why being in the same position of the bow is important? When you look across and you see them at the same, why is that important? Why can't it just be,
Look at this. I'm going to do the exact same thing in two different parts of the bow. So if I want to do, say for example, that's that sound. Now listen to this sound. You hear how different that sounds?
Yes, it's louder than the first
It's
sound.
also sharper sound. The beginning of the note is comes out a lot quicker. If I am going to do, say for example, spiccato, I can't really do it here. See how very, very different things
Yeah,
those
it
are.
sounds bad if you do it quieter.
You're correct. You're correct. You don't want to do it in the wrong place of the bow because it will sound bad. That was a good, well close there.
G, everybody, and let's show them, let's just do staccato 8 notes. And can you tell us how fast to play by your breath?
Sure. See that?
Makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
can you play that again with some of you playing in a different bow position?
Oh, sure.
Okay, all right.
We're still trying to do staccato, right?
Yeah, same articulation, wrong part of the bow. Yeah. we want to make sure that our sound is unified so that we have one sound coming towards you as opposed to 4 different sounds coming your way. All right.
So there's actually like a musical leader in the quartet. Do you know who that is? It's a traditional musical leader in the string quartet. Anybody, any?
I just want to guess.
Go for it.
Is it the cellist?
That is the best guess.
I see what you're saying, because I have the bottom that, and I tend to move a lot more because I do have the beat where they can go around me, but I have to have that beat.
And mostly all of our music is based on her sound.
We
So we live on top of her.
We're on top of her. We're laying on top of her. We build our chords. Everything comes from
That
the
says a
bottom.
lot of good things about your ears. Very nice.
But I'm not the leader,
But-
sorry.
No, but she's very squished up from us being on top of her. Okay, so what do you think it is? Yes,
Part of the gym, and it's just in the first violin.
you got it. Okay, so.
Traditionally, that's
right.
the case.
So Mishgar is sitting in the first violin chair. So there's 4 parts that composers write for when they write for quartet. So there's a violin 1 part, a violin 2 part, a viola part, and a cello part. And they're all different. Oftentimes, he and I are married, those 2 are married, she and I, they trade that partnership around. Sometimes we have a solo or whatever. So traditionally though, this is the leader of the quartet, and you'll watch me look to him to start and to stop. Sometimes O'Brien brings us in, sometimes I have to start us. You know, sometimes, not very often.
It's true.
But traditionally, the first violinist is the leader of a string quartet. And we're very collegiate when we work, but he definitely leads us, so there you have it. We're gonna run it, we can talk like, we do 2 songs and not 2 duets.
Which
Wanna
one would
do
you guys
Bad
like to do?
Guys and Incredible? We have like 5 minutes left,
Yeah.
Great.
should we do that?
Sounds good. This next tune that we're doing is called Bad Guy. You might have heard of it.
Yes, I know Bad Guy. The original one is by Billie Eilish.
You are correct. That is exactly what we're going to do.
I heard she most sees whispers than singing.
I think you're right.
Very breathy,
Yeah, and one of the things there's a couple of new techniques that for the violin that are going to show up in this tune, and one of them is called a chop. It's a percussion sound.
Yeah.
That's one of them, and the other one is called sul ponticello, where we put the bow really close to the bridge. Makes that sound.
Yeah.
So those 2 techniques are going to show up in this tune. Let's play.
Okay, so for our last song, let's see at the end if you can see who's leading the song. Is it Mishgar, Brian, Kathy, or myself?
Trick question. Did anybody recognize that last tune? Incredible.
Incroyable.
That's right.
Okay, who started the song? Who started? Yes? The viola?
Yes.
Nice.
Good work.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we maybe have a few minutes for some questions.
Of course.
If anyone has a question they'd like to ask about the music you heard today, or how they play their instrument, or
Anything?
there we go, Allison.
How long does it take to pick up on other people's like cues and stuff?
That's a very good question. So normally, when you start playing together, as often as we do, you pick it up quite quickly. If you're not playing together very often, it'll take just a little bit longer. It actually does get a little long. The time elongates if you don't play for a few weeks together, and then you don't play again for a few weeks, and then you play then it takes you a few months. But we play twice a week actually together. At least twice a week together. So within a couple of weeks, we were jagging. Yeah.
And then also, if you're playing like four strangers, you have no idea who they are, and you're playing together, which sometimes happens when you're doing a gig. You have no idea who the other. We have to try really hard to play together.
Yeah, and there are conventional things. For example, breath, body movement. Those things happen with every performer. So you see that happening. The energy does show up in even when you don't know the people that you're playing with. But it is, of course, less present given the fact that you don't know one another.
We all have the skills, so that's part of since we were little ones learning and playing, basically this is what you're learning the whole time. This is what we teach. If you're in our orchestra program, for example, you're learning, there's so many, there's a really big difference between playing this and playing in an ensemble. So first of all, I gotta be able to play this, and then I gotta be able to sit and communicate with these people. Same thing in an orchestra. There is a language that happens in an orchestra, and so as a musician, when I can go to any conductor, and when the conductor goes like this, I go, okay, he wants me to be on one. That's your down, your first beat in the measure. So there's certain things like that are pretty, that go through all the music that you have, these skills that you have that you have in all the times you play, right? Yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask the wonky deep dive sort of question because I'm fascinated with bow position and all this kind of stuff. So do you have names for the different places that there is? And then is it marked in the score? That's the second part.
It's not marked in the score normally, but some composers, modern composers, none of the old composers would write it down, but the modern composers will tell you sometimes tick or frog. Actually, back in the day, they would write at least the frog. In the 1800s and later, they would tell you about the frog, Amsteck, for example, in German, or what do you call it? I forget the word in French. Anyway, they used to tell you about the frog.
Oh, the grenouille. The grenouille.
Huh?
The grenouille is French, is for
Exactly.
frog, yeah, I think so.
But they don't call it a frog.
Okay, yeah.
Talon, there we go, that's the word.
Okay, talon. Okay, got it.
Like the talon
Yeah.
of a bird.
Yeah.
So this is the lower half, this is the middle, and this is the upper half.
Okay.
Sometimes, yes, I guess those are the only names, and we also have the balance point. That's
Okay.
a very important part of the bow.
Okay.
That's where the bow doesn't go in this direction or in the direction when you balance it in the middle. Mine is around there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about there.
Okay.
So there's a place also called the balance point. Normally a perfect place for doing spiccato, that stroke that we were talking about.
So you make decisions as a quartet on this
Yes.
particular place. We're going to
Yes.
play from the top of the bow.
Right.
You write that in the music. So then,
Correct.
let's say you go to a gig and Brian can't make it, and the sub plays in his place or in your place or whatever.
Like if it's a wedding gig, it's not a big
Right.
It doesn't really matter. It matters where you are in the boat, but it's
Of course.
different. But at concerts like this, if Brian was deathly ill today, not to make you deathly ill, we would probably
Sorry.
cancel it.
Yeah.
There's not, we can't play this kind of music like this.
You can't notate it closely enough that anybody could sit in
It
and,
wouldn't matter
yeah, it really
because,
wouldn't matter.
like, we've rehearsed so much together.
Right, right.
Like, it's years of rehearsing, so.
Yeah, honestly, I think any musician that's actually experienced will be able to just pick up on cues right away. So you'll know, try and match everyone's, if you're a good musician, you'll be able to just kind of follow and then follow.
Yeah. And you have to be a heck of a lot more on your toes, but
Actually,
yeah.
what he just said is if you're a good musician. So to be a good musician, it's like so when we win, that means we all got to the end together. When we win, it doesn't mean Mishkar got there first because he can play faster. Okay, so it's about, playing together, and a good musician's gonna come into scene, and I'm gonna look where other people are in the book. We talk about this to our students all the time in orchestra. You gotta look around, look and see like where the leaders are, look and see where everyone's in their boat. You probably should put your bow there, even if you disagree. That's the thing about quartet that's a little bit more free. We have a voice.
We all have the same voice.
In an orchestra, you don't.
You have to follow the leader.
Yes.
In an orchestra, say for example, I had a violin teacher back in the Dominican Republic who used to play for the Rochester Symphony in New York for a while, and he said the concertmaster was very, very, very tall. So a lot of the things were sort of in the upper half and at the tip, and everybody just had to do that. So that's just how things go. You just have to follow the leader.
Interesting. All right. Any other questions for our quartet? Okay, I think you're free.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.